Okay, I have a confession to make. I, like so many of you, I'm sure, am just such a sucker for a great sounding piano. Now, I know when I was first starting Moss 2, I wanted the piano to sort of be the emotional core of the score, but I didn't have a piano. Now, in the past, for things like the main theme from Tomb Raider, like a gazillion years ago, I used the Pianotech piano software, which is really, really good. But that was a while ago, and even though VSTs continue to be updated and continue to sound more detailed and more realistic, there's just something about playing a real piano as opposed to playing a weighted synth keyboard, triggering a piano that just makes you feel a certain way. So 2 years ago, I decided to go on the ultimate adventure and try to find the perfect acoustic piano for my studio. So my friend Alan Atkinson and I jumped in the car. I remember it was raining very hard. It was September 2 years ago, peak of COVID. Ironically, making appointments to see your piano when no one else is in the store was a really great thing for us. I didn't have to fight with 15 other people playing 15 other pianos around the room. We had the entire place to ourselves. So after much to do and many different piano stores, we ended up narrowing it down to 2 different pianos, a Yamaha and a Boston, which is actually a Steinway piano manufactured in the Kawai factory in Japan. Both pianos sounded amazing. Both pianos felt amazing. And I decided after that first day, the best thing to do to try to pick between the 2 would be to literally record them both playing the same piece of music and listen to it back in the studio. So this took the objectivity out of it and made it more of an emotional response. How does that piano sound in this track for Moss 2, as opposed to the other piano? So to properly get the right sound between both pianos, I took the same pair of microphones, some Telefunken little pencil tube mics that I just absolutely love, with Omni capsules on them, because I read that Omni capsules were good for piano. Never have recorded piano live in my entire life, and this was kind of the first time. I took my old laptop, ran Digital Performer on it, and even ordered a Scarlett interface off of Amazon specifically to record these 2 pianos. The Yamaha sounded a little more forward in the mids, just listening to it in the room, where the Boston/Steinway had more of that Steinway sound. It had more of kind of a smiley face with less mids. So the real question was, which one would be better for music? I know for pop, Yamaha is very, very popular, and also for film scoring because it's got this beautiful top end that can kind of cut through the mix. But I also know that for jazz, a lot of times Steinways are used. I know Harry Connick plays a Steinway, I know John Williams plays a Steinway, but he's also a big jazz person. So it really was fun trying to figure out which was going to be which. I mean, debates in the car with Alan and I all the way to and from every piano place, debating the pros and cons of everything. So here are some quick snippets from the recordings that I did. All the audio is consistently from each of the pianos recorded the exact same way. So it really came down to this very interesting difference between the 2. And really, it's almost like Neve versus API, which Neve is very British and kind of considered like smooth and creamy and tasteful. API is very American, and as a result is sort of like punchy and rock. That's kind of how the Yamaha and the Boston were kind of yin and yang to each other. So here's examples of me playing the Moss track that I ended up putting the pianos underneath to sort of pick the ultimate one. Here's an A and B of them right next to each other. Now that mid-range that the Yamaha has that so many people love, for me, was maybe not quite the mid-range I wanted. The Boston, for me, was the choice. It was the sound. It was the piano that I sort of heard in my head, and the one that I ended up getting. Here it is in the final track. Now that I've pontificated enough about buying a piano, because it was just so exciting to buy a piano, and it's right over there, baby grand, right over there in the studio, with the same microphones hooked up to it, actually. So that's really funny, because I thought I would buy maybe a piano bar or buy some specific mics for it, and I've tried, I think, 5 or 6 different kinds of mics on the piano, and go figure, the Telefunkens are the ones that I like the most. I don't know why. They're great mics, but I wasn't planning on keeping them on the piano, but they haven't left. They're still over there. So I've bought some other mics to go around my desk. Telefunkens were originally my desk mics for recording everything. Now I've got others, and it's all good. The bottom line is I love the sound of the piano. Let's listen to it, shall we? Here at the very bottom of the screen, we've got the stereo piano track. And I think when I start playing this, you'll understand why I fell in love with this piano. And it's just as magical up an octave higher. For me personally, amazing right out of the gate, which means all I have to do is not mess it up down the road. Here's what I did with a tiny bit of EQ and cut out some of the lows since it's all high piano. And I added this reverb, and that gets us this. Now, the only reason I'm using Seventh Heaven here instead of my outboard Bricastes is I had moved into the new studio, but had not hooked up the Bricastes yet. And this is a Bricasti emulation. It's the best I've heard. So close that even in A-B comparison, it's kind of hard to tell the difference. So it definitely did the job, don't you think? Since Moss, I've actually used that piano on every single job I've had, whether it was a TV show, a trailer, or a video game. So to say that I'm getting my money's worth from the piano is definitely an understatement.